Reports have surfaced that Arizona State is appealing its loss to Texas over a controversial call to have the game reversed. What? This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. A report has surfaced that Arizona State is appealing its loss to Texas over a controversial call, but not the one you're expecting. Not the targeting, actually, but something different. OK State Probs tweets, according to Rule 8, Section 4, Article 1 of, I guess, the NCAA rulebook, Arizona State won the game. This says here, verbatim, in the scenario where a field goal attempt is blocked, bounces off the turf, then goes through the uprights, the key considerations are live ball status. After a block, the ball remains live. If it bounces off the ground, goes through the uprights without being touched again by the kicking team, it can still be considered a valid field goal. Now, Pick'em Petey picked this up on TikTok and made a video about it, saying Arizona State appeals the result of a loss to Texas in the Peach Bowl and could have it reverse, as those 3 points could count. And Pick'em Petey goes on to say that the College Football Playoff Committee has the autonomy to not exactly change the result or the score or the winner of the Peach Bowl, but still advance Arizona State. It's within the parameters to send Arizona State to the semifinals as the representative for the Playoff Committee on their behalf, if they so choose. And as the host of Locked On Big 12, who's supposed to keep you entertained and informed, what the hell are you people thinking and talking and assuming about? OK State Probs. The profile picture of this account, who I follow, by the way, because the account's very funny, is a bearded Oklahoma State fan drinking a fifth of Tito's vodka. Yes, they're verified. They're paying Elon Musk money to have that. They're not actually verified. And it says, what do you think there's actually a Rule 8, Section 4 of Article 1 in the NCAA rulebook? And you think it actually says in the scenario where a field goal is blocked, bounces off the turf, and goes through the upright? You think the rulebook is that in-depth? And that it would say, it could be considered a valid field goal. And that a guy wearing a Marlboro hat, Pick'em Petey on TikTok. I was sent this by multiple people on Twitter. I was sent the tweet itself by a former Arizona State athlete who said, wait a second, there's a chance. The account, OK State Probs, actually tweeted in the little subsection of this, something along the lines of, I would do anything for the troll. This is not remotely true. Everyone's been faked out, bamboozled. There is no appeal from Arizona State. The fact that someone now, look, I'm going to shoot you straight here. Clickbait is something that it exists in the sports realm, okay? I want you to click on my videos. I want my title to have something very poppy, but when you get into the meat of the video, I'm not going to false report. I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell you what is being reported or being confirmed by actual real sources. Or, if not real sources that I feel like might have some credibility, and I'm going to tell you what I think about their credibility and their take. Here, I will tell you. I want you to click on my videos. I want you to watch this show. I want you to like me. I want to be entertaining. But I'm not going to report you. The guy's direct quote, this Pick'em Petey. Arizona State appeals result of loss to Texas. Let me do a quick little Google machine thing. Nope. None of it. Kenny Dillingham went to the podium, talked about the targeting call. Like, obviously, we're upset by that. Brett Yormark was not happy with the targeting call. We know that was the wrong call. Gene Steratore or Tessitore, or whatever his name is, even went on Twitter and said, yep, pretty much textbook targeting. And any of these idiot Texas fans, like, well, it was a good tackle. He went face mask up, defenseless receiver. Okay, but defenseless receiver, head or neck area. Like my dad called me. It was like, yeah, probably not the crown of the helmet. Okay, Dad. The rule of targeting is longer than just, crown of the helmet. See ya. It head or neck area of defenseless receiver, which happen. And then Texas fans like, well, there was one on our receiver earlier in the game. Maybe. I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm just saying in the moment it mattered the most, Texas should have been called for targeting. Should the field goal, there was a field goal blocked that somehow careened off the turf, had enough English to spin through the uprights, and Twitter thinks that's a good field goal? This is like the AI. This is the AI where it's like 700 members of the U.S. military. They have 18 fingers apiece, and each of them are carrying an American flag, none of which have 50 stars or the amount of stripes that are necessary. It is painfully AI, and it's shared on Facebook, and it has 8,300 shares, and every comment is "God bless this country." And the writing, the quote above it, the caption of the picture is "Bet you won't share this. No one loves America anymore." And all of these AI mangled people who are supposed to be members of the military get a gajillion shares because I don't know if you knew this. Can I come in close? Come in close. Okay, hey, this is what you bring. I try to give you 1 point every show you bring to your water cooler, and you can share with others. People, by and large, kind of idiots on social media. You and me, no, we're good. If you're listening to this, you've gotten this far, we're good. We're not the idiots. But most of the people on social media don't really know what they're doing, and they think that 700 AI people don't believe that we love America, and they think that a field goal that was blocked and somehow bounced through the upright should count for 3 points because a count called OK State Probs with a bearded Santa, I guess Santa's usually bearded, with a Santa dressed in Oklahoma State garb, drinking Tito's, said it. Oh, well, yeah, guess that must be the rule then. I don't know. I saw another Facebook post this week. This is becoming a Facebook rant, a social media rant. Another Facebook post from, let me see, I haven't pulled the name, Rashid Al-Jabbar. And look, there may be a Rashid Al-Jabbar who's a Baylor fan. Sick 'em Bears, my friend. But this time, Rashid Al-Jabbar tweet to Facebooks in this Baylor Bears chat. Heartbreaking. Dave Aranda and Sawyer Robertson suspended for bowl game. No, they're not. Rashid, no, they're not. And all these people that believe them have opened their social media apps like, well, gosh darn it. Rashid's got a good point. He's a real reputable reporter. I don't. Google. Use the Google machine one time. Don't trust Parlay Petey and some random Oklahoma State burner account. That's my take today, and I'm sticking to it. I'm just passionate. I'm fiery. It's a Friday. Let me be. Coming up, you know what? Can I be honest with you? Can I tell you something crazy? I should never be this transparent. I usually, like, my whole deal is I've worked every day. I posted a show every day since like December 15th. And I needed a couple days off. My left eye is starting to twitch. I'm really unraveling it here. My left eye is starting to twitch. And I said I wouldn't record a show, and then I saw this idiocy, and I thought, gosh, dang it. I'm addicted to talking about things that just tick me off. Coming up, the SEC sucks, and I want to talk about it. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You have to understand that FanDuel is the number one place to go to place bets this college football season. You can place bets on Texas to lose by 6 points to Ohio State in the college football playoff, because that's going to happen, and the NFL playoffs are almost here. But it's not too late to bet on the regular season action at FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. Love betting on which players will score a touchdown, like the Saquon Barkley guy. He's pretty good. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. FanDuel.com for your chance to win $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Confirmed. Northern Illinois is better than Georgia. Go Northern Illinois. Fight Northern Illinois. They were able to beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame in South Bend, but Georgia couldn't. But wait, Lane Kiffin told me the SEC is the best. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, watch it. Georgia's won national championship after national championship, and Notre Dame is a complete dud. I heard ad nauseum before this game. Remember that one time Notre Dame lost to Alabama? You cannot. Here's my deal. You cannot, as an SEC fan, tout the conference all the way along. And then Tennessee gets blown out by Ohio State. Then you're kind of pissed off that Texas didn't compete that well against Arizona State. And in the SEC's eyes, Arizona State is a make-a-wish. Listen to the ESPN broadcast. They were like, oh, these scrappy guys from Tempe taking on the NFL caliber of Texas. A miracle they could keep it a ball game. And that's how most SEC fans thought of Arizona State. This party school from out west, there's no way they'll compete. Not only did they compete, they should have won the game, and the referees took it out of their hands. And buddy, now there's this. Now Georgia loses to Notre Dame. And all of a sudden, Lane Kiffin's getting real quiet. Paul, I'm telling you, Paul, if not Rocco Beck, that's the Iowa State quarterback. If Carson Beck would have played, I'm telling you, Paul, they would have won. It is insufferable. You understand, I turn on the SEC network for some god-awful reason after the Arizona State and Texas game, and they're talking about how, the SEC just outclassed the Big 12. Arizona State got outclassed. What does that even mean? What kind of class does Texas have? We're talking about the same Texas team that should have, there was a massive missed targeting. And instead of talking about the actual targeting, Joe Tessitore, the broadcasters, were like, yeah, it's probably targeting, but also that defender, former walk-on, what a story, second team All-American, what a stand-up kid, lunch pail guy, first one in, last one out, kind of guy you let date your daughter. That's the rhetoric around the SEC. And guess what? I'm not that salty. This isn't salt. I grew up in Arkansas. I grew up an SEC guy. What has been proven, and it's ESPN's nightmare, is that the SEC's not that good. Well, Georgia had its starting quarterback out. That starting quarterback was one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the Power Four. Did he have an insane team around him? Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Did they help him? Did they tout him? No doubt. That Georgia team should have lost to Georgia Tech. And they're your second best team. They're the second best team in the SEC. Now, look, Ole Miss routed the third string Duke quarterback. Well, you want a cookie? Oh, congrats, Lane Kiffin. You lost to Kentucky. Oh, but you killed the third string quarterback at Duke? Oh, my goodness. You guys should get a bowl trophy for that. And you do. It's the only thing you get. There are no moral victories. The ESPN propaganda they push to you is that the SEC would go undefeated in hypothetical games. Well, the SEC is only defeated in non-hypothetical games. When we actually play these hypotheticals out, the SEC can't seem to win. Is anybody else shocked by this? Is anybody else surprised that 11-3 Georgia? Like, I watched Carson Beck this season, and in the same way that I watched Quinn Ewers, I wanted to absolutely pull my hair out. I never had fun watching Carson Beck. It was never an enjoyable experience. He never made me happy playing on a football field. They're winning at home against Tennessee, sure. He had 10 points against Ole Miss. When he got taken, and God forbid I give credit to Texas, but I guess I will. When he was taken out of the game against Texas via injury, he was 7 for 13. Oh, but he had 5 touchdowns against Georgia Tech. They went to 8 overtimes. Dude had all the time in the world to throw a gajillion passes in OT. Oh, he had 4 touchdowns against UMass. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my God. UMass, huh? Boy, he really gave it to... Well, he had 5 rushing yards on 5 attempts against UMass. This is... Paul, insufferable. And at some point, that product becomes so diluted, we stop watching it. The NBA. Bah. The MLB. Bah. The only thing still alive right now is the NFL. Why? Because ESPN doesn't have access to it. And now ESPN has total access to the College Football Playoff Committee and to the SEC, and the SEC is highly touted. I watched Georgia lose. I watched Arizona State beat Texas. Scoreboard. Texas wins. Sure. Scorebook. Box score. Arizona State wins. And I can't stop thinking what Iowa State, who beat Miami, what BYU, who thrashed Colorado, would have done in the college football playoff. But no, we had to see mighty Georgia go win a national championship. Come on, guys. Look at them. They're going to do it on a backup quarterback. And then I go back to the, non-SEC team, Ohio State, who brought in the third-string quarterback and won a national championship in the first ever year of the college football playoff. But he's just a boy. Gunnar Stockton's just a boy. Carson Beck would have been... Stop. If that's what this is supposed to be, that Georgia is the best team in the country and they can dominate everybody and they're, oh my gosh, they're so world beating that they deserve to go walk to a national. Shouldn't even play the playoff because Georgia's there. Same team that lost to Alabama, who was terrible. Same team that lost to Ole Miss, 28-10. That's the Georgia team who struggled for 3 quarters against UMass and went to 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech. That's the Georgia team you wanted to gift the national championship. Newsflash, buddy. The SEC is not winning the college football playoff this year. They're not. Texas is going to lose to Ohio State. And it's legendary. It's legendary that this is the year, for the second year in a row, we won't have a single SEC team in the college football playoff national championship. ESPN might go under. They might have to start firing people. I'm not sure how they're going to stay in business. It's happy. It's a happy day. It's a happy day over here because we have just once again seen that the SEC propaganda machine is just stupid. It's stupid. The SEC network. I'd rather watch Locked On SEC. That dude's got more of a brain cell than anybody else over there. I'd rather watch Locked On College Football. God knows I'd rather watch Locked On Big 12. I hope you can revel in this. I hope you can revel in SEC tears. And I hope that you turn on the Pine Bomb Show tomorrow. I don't care if he gets good ratings or bad ratings. I don't give a rat's butt. I just can't wait to hear, Paul... Yeah, Alabama lost, but they got cheated by the referees. Even Kirby Smart, after the game, was like, well, we didn't have enough time to substitute. I didn't know that was legal. And I'm sure the world's out to get you, huh, there, Big Curb. 10 points. 10 points. I live in Georgia now, too. I was at a Georgia bar. I was kind of rooting for them just because, like, my friends are Georgia fans now because I live down here. Oops. My bad. I also had $100 on Georgia. I owe my bookie a lot this week. Coming up, there's some like BYU Utah stuff going on that I addressed it earlier this week. I want to revisit it. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Rocket Money. I'm 23 years old, which is old enough to know the SEC is not that good at football. I'm also old enough to not be able to do finances still. They didn't teach me how to do that stuff in college or high school. I was a journalism guy. I've got subscriptions I didn't even know I was paying for multiple times. Like one of them is like this Apple thing where it has storage on my iCloud. What does that mean? Don't know. What is an iCloud? Still don't know. Rocket Money was like, hey, boss, you're paying for that twice, so stop. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using the app's premium features. Again, subscription tracker, biggest thing. They have a goals feature as well. Automatically set aside money for your future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. That's been key for me. Cancel unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals of Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Visit Rocket Money and do it today. An analyst goes on Locked On Utes and says, in essence, look, I don't know who this guy is. I've never heard of him. I'm not going to use his name. I'm not going to use the clip because the last thing I want to do is keep pushing this propaganda. But he says that BYU, he opens the clip with like, man, I don't want to get in trouble here. It's like, I got to be really careful with this. But BYU is promising players NIL money and not delivering. And the entire basis of this conversation, if you listen to the episode, is talking about BYU and Utah players and whether there is tampering or collusion, and if BYU was trying to get other Utah players, like could Dorian Singer have been there are so many aspects of this conversation that talk about whether or not BYU is illegally trying to recruit players off of Utah's roster. And the claim from this recruiting analyst, he's a Rivals analyst. I didn't know Rivals still existed, to be honest with you. This claim is that BYU is promising NIL money and not giving it. Let's start here. No evidence was given. Everybody back up. Everybody put the guns down. No evidence was given whatsoever on this show that's a real thing. And from everything I can search in Google, I've never heard of this analyst. Maybe he's never heard of me. That's not a slight. I've never heard of him. But the second that I did the little Google machine thing, turns out he said some things in the past that weren't very true. I don't believe until you show me some sort of evidence that isn't a Utah staffer or a Utah Rivals analyst telling me, yeah, well, BYU, they try to take some of our players. I understand Utah is probably upset that BYU has taken multiple of its players out of the portal now and flipped certain commitments, and money is possibly part of that. But didn't we establish last year, like for the last couple of years, Utah's done a pretty good job in NIL, arguably better than BYU? Like BYU hasn't just ponied up the NIL money until very recently when they decided, we have donors that will give us the money thing that we can give to athletes. Also, he starts the clip by saying, I get called a liar a lot. And after this one, I guess, I don't know, maybe they're going to call me a liar again. You can't project things that you don't know. You can't project things you can't prove. And if you can't prove them with evidence, then just don't say them. That's what I was told. You know what assuming does? And BYU fans, you might have to plug your ears for this one. It makes an ass out of you and me. That's what assuming does. And if this isn't true, it's some wild defamation on BYU. Now, I want to go to bat for JT Wistersill, who's the host of Locked On Utes, who had this guy on. I've had people on in the past who sit in the chair next to me and they say something crazy. I don't think JT at any point was like, yeah, no, he's right. He's never listening to this analyst going, this is happening all the time everywhere. And I don't think this completely falls on JT. I had somebody text me, a Utah fan, that was like, dude, that was bad. Like that was the analyst saying that was bad and completely uncalled for. And I can't believe that the host left it in there. You got to edit that out. A lot of times on these Locked On shows, a lot of times on any podcast, when a guest comes on and claims something, that is their opinion. Like I've had guests that have come on and said, I believe that, I'll make a very good example of this. I know Isaac Wilson is going to go to BYU. I'll have guests come on and say, like, I'm predicting hardcore Isaac Wilson to BYU. Do they know that? No. Is it a projection? Sure. I'm going to leave it in there. Like that's that guy's thoughts. I don't think that this analyst speaks on behalf of Locked On Utes. He doesn't speak on behalf of JT Wistersill, a guy who I've had on my show a lot of times, a guy who's eaten a lot of humble pie because he was so high on Utah earlier this season and the preseason. So the last thing that I want to do is attack the Locked On host for just having the guy on. I don't think he expected that the dude would come on and defame BYU and say, defamation, slander, libel. Ooh, I got a journalism degree, but all those words I think mean something different. One of them's written, one of them's, I don't even know what this is. But I'm going to go to bat for JT Wistersill, one of our hosts with Locked On, and say he didn't intentionally try to put BYU under the bus like that. Now, is this a very relevant but clickbaity conversation? Yes, and I'll probably have the same conversation later this week because it does. Like everybody is freaking out in the Utah camp that BYU is colluding or tampering and trying to steal Utah players. It's worth a conversation to talk about how that's probably not happening. I get the optics are bad, but the only evidence we have for BYU possibly trying to tamper with Utah players is Kalani Sitake shaking a couple of guys' hands after a game, which I've only recently learned that players and coaches shake hands after the game, the opposing teams. Wow. And the other thing that we have here as evidence is some analyst who covers like Utah, who comes on and says that BYU, the way they're getting these kids to campus is saying, we'll give you X amount of money, we'll give you X number, and then when the kid actually gets there, they don't get that number. I would come back with that. And I would say, okay, not only is there zero evidence for that, an insane claim to make, and I know that JT Wistersill, the host of Locked On Utes, made an executive decision to leave that in there, and I think he, as someone who just is letting the analyst speak on behalf of the analyst, not on behalf of the show, cool. But I want to know, why hasn't there been a mass exodus? Why aren't a bunch of BYU players entering the transfer portal? You think that they were promised $1 million, they got $250K or even $750K, and then they're like, oh yeah, well, okay, I'll just stay. You know, there wasn't this mass exodus of BYU players into the transfer portal. So something's not adding up. Players are actively going to BYU. They're not leaving BYU. Utah players are going to BYU. BYU players aren't going to Utah. And I don't hate Utah. I think that we have scrutinized the Utes enough. They have paid their dues. Maybe you disagree with that. But this darn fan base has gone through the ringer in the last year because they sucked at football. They were really, really bad at football. And they were supposed to be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the Big 12. So all of those things put together, I need this. It's like having kids. And I don't have kids, but I've been around them, for better or worse. It's like having kids, and you're just like, I can't. You're sitting in the back seat. Stop fighting. You stop making random accusations about your sister. That's what? That's not even, no. She did not eat the dog's booger. You stop just stirring stuff up. Quit poking your sister and tell her that she lost the spelling bee, that she was the first place contestant pregame and then got last. Stop it. Both of you just quiet. Time out. I guess this is how rivalries go. The Big 12 hasn't had a rivalry like this ever. Even Texas and OU was more tame than BYU and Utah. Just both of you two kids, sit in the back seat quietly, please. Stop doing whatever you're doing because it's a lot and it's loud. It's really, really loud. And I just want us all to be friends, which will never happen. BYU is not over-promising, under-delivering on NIL, and I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who he is. I know. Got host makes executive decision to leave it in there because the analyst is speaking on behalf of the analyst. I'm fine with that, dude. I'm fine with not editing stuff out. Does Joe Rogan edit stuff out? And he's got the #1 podcast in the world. Maybe he does. I don't know. I haven't really watched it. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose grande.